Crestwood has long been one of the most popular neighborhoods in the Birmingham metro area, and it's not necessarily for everyone. Crestwood is a tight-knit community and the home prices tend to be very stable, but there are a few things to think about before buying a home here. I'm Brian Kelleher, a local realtor with Keller Williams Realty in Crestwood in Birmingham, Alabama. I've lived and worked in Crestwood for over 25 years, and I help people just like yourself relocate right here to Crestwood. So it's my job as a real estate agent to point out just everything you need to know when you're considering buying a home in Crestwood. So real estate agents are often referred to as salespeople, but really our job is not to sell, our job is to inform. And well, we need to keep you informed whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And today I'm going to focus on the ugly. So here are my top 3 reasons you may want to consider not buying a home in Crestwood. First up is the choo-choos. There are 2 sets of railroad tracks that run right through Crestwood. The first is a single set of tracks that runs through the middle of Crestwood. It's basically in the backyards of a lot of the homes along 6th Court and 6th Avenue. This is not a super active track, but it runs a couple of times a day. The train itself is not that disturbing, but when it blows its horn at one of the crossings in the neighborhood, you will certainly know that it's coming. Additionally, the train sometimes stops on the tracks, and that forces residents to detour around it. And it also causes the crossing bells to go off for extended periods of time, which can be really annoying, especially at odd hours of the day. There's a second and more active set of tracks that runs along 5th Avenue, which is actually a group of 3 railroad tracks. These are very active, and you can hear the trains coming and going at all hours of the day and night. There's almost no time of the day where you don't hear a train horn off in the distance or a train rolling through the neighborhood. For most of the people in the neighborhood, this is just a quaint and a quirky part of living in Crestwood, and you eventually get used to it. But if you live in one of the houses across from the tracks, it can really rattle the windows in your house when the trains roll through. The second reason you might want to consider not moving to Crestwood is the steel plant. The steel plant lies just across 5th Avenue from Crestwood North and can be a little annoying to some of the residents who live close by. Much like the trains, for most of the neighborhood, the steel plant is just an interesting part of living in Crestwood, and you eventually get used to it. For the residents close by, it can be pretty disturbing at times. For starters, one of the railroad tracks we were just talking about specifically services the steel plant. It runs through the neighborhood and dumps scrap steel at the plant, and this leads to all kinds of crashes and noises as the scrap metal is dumped, and more noise as it's moved around by big machinery into the plant. And as it's being processed, there again are all kinds of scraping and banging noises, as well as the occasional explosion. In addition, there are various like horns, alarms, and bells that go off at different times of the day, signaling different stages in the production process. And the last reason you may want to consider not moving to Crestwood is the lack of a homeowners association. Without a homeowners association, it leaves the residents of Crestwood to do what they want in terms of style and color for their homes. And Crestwood is far from being what people would call a cookie-cutter neighborhood. That being said, for most of the residents of Crestwood, myself included, we would tell you that this is one of the great things about the neighborhood, and the lack of an HOA gives neighbors the ability to express themselves without the intrusion of an authority to tell them what color to paint their house or what plantings they can have around their house. Of course, Crestwood is within the city limits of Birmingham, and so there's a certain level of code that's enforced. So people, they can't just run like a junkyard or something out of their house. But for the most part, Crestwood is pretty free and easy with how you want to keep your property. There is a neighborhood association, which we've talked about in other videos, for each side of the neighborhood. However, this function is largely to give neighbors a place and a time to gather and voice their thoughts and opinions on things, and also to be a liaison between the neighborhood and the city of Birmingham. Rules enforcement, it's just not really what the neighborhood association is set up for. So there you go. That's my top 3 reasons not to move to Crestwood. So have you considered moving to Crestwood and decided against it? Why? I would love to know. So please leave your comment below. And if you're currently thinking of moving to Crestwood, I want to be your real estate agent, and you can find my information in the description and in the comments below. So be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can be the first to know everything there is to know about Crestwood. And if you want to learn more about what you should know before making a move to Crestwood, be sure to check out these other videos.